Hello, this is AstroKrys from CodaQueenAstrology, and today I wanted to make a video on Cesar Chavez. Today is March 31st, which is a national holiday that was adopted in 2014 by Barack Obama, honoring civil rights leader Cesar Chavez, who was American of birth but had Mexican descent, born in Arizona on March the 31st, 1927, and he passed away in 1993. So let's get to his chart. But before we do that, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment below. Let me know if there's anyone else's chart that you would like me to analyze. I'm taking suggestions and I'm making my list of charts that I'm going to be looking at. So let's get to it. First, when you look at this chart, we see that he is a Virgo rising and his sun was in Aries, which, immediately you can see that leadership. And we have a moon in Pisces, conjunct a Jupiter in Pisces. So where do we start here? Let's start by the Virgo Ascendant. Now, most of his work was around improving work conditions. And these work conditions were around the farming industry, how the workers were being treated, the benefits that they had in laborious labor. And you can already see this chart already like beautifully tying in, because the ruler of Virgo is Mercury, and Mercury is in Pisces. When Mercury is in Pisces, it's very intuitive. It's very sensitive, and that's what he was. He was very sensitive to the collective's needs, specifically to a group. And even though Mercury is in a sign of deficit, it doesn't really enjoy the energy of Pisces when a planet is next to another planet that rules that zodiac sign. Jupiter rules Pisces. The accidental deficit of that planet becomes accidental dignity. So his Mercury was able to function because he had help with Jupiter being there. And they're in pretty close, tight conjunction, even with the moon. And why is this important? Because when you go to his fourth house, another house that Jupiter rules, you see Saturn there. And Saturn is hard work. Saturn rules agriculture. It rules gain. It rules farm. It rules farming. So it rules rocks, right? It rules everything connected to land and how to work the land to create riches. Now, back in the days, if you had farm, if you had animals, you had money. And even in Spanish, we call it ganado. That means to win. So a group of cows, we would call ganado. That is your ganado. That means those are your winnings, because we knew that those animals would bring profit, whether it's having calves to sell or producing milk for cheese, for, drinking milk, all sorts of products that come with a cow. So obviously we've changed, and that is not the only way to make money. But for a point in time, agriculture was the way that we would make money. So he comes really rooted with a lot of past lives in regard to working with the land. And it's in the sign of Sagittarius. So what is it? The sign of Sagittarius thinks outside of the box. It's more about justices. It's more about ethics. So Saturn in the sign of ethics. It is also in a deficit sign because Saturn doesn't rule Sagittarius. But because Saturn is in Sagittarius and the ruler of Sagittarius is in great dignity, that is Jupiter in Pisces, it assists. So even though there was conditions in which he had to overcome, he had to do a lot of work, a lot of karmic work his early years. So then he can build up the strength. And when we see that, exalted Aries sun, it's at 10 degrees. That's the degree of Capricorn, which is all about work again. So he made it his life's work to advocate for the underdog, to advocate for people that needed more better treatment, fair conditions, right? And asking for fairness, justice, to practice ethics within the industry. Now, his legacy was really shaped by Mercury. And again, Mercury being in a sign of deficit, it still shows a lot of strength here. Mercury is in the seventh house of negotiations and contracts. And those are all things that he became an expert in as he was negotiating labor laws and lobbying for laws. I mean, he did a peaceful protest in which he fasted. So that's the energy of cleansing Pisces. He really utilized this chart. He has, like I mentioned, the MC in the sign of Gemini, and Mercury's ruling the MC. So that really has him tap into using his voice. So part of his legacy was the speeches that he made, but these were very intuitively channeled speeches. Again, in the seventh house, being able to negotiate and bring awareness to others, like where they're able to partner and harmonize things. Now, Mars, the ruler of his sun, is also in Gemini, and it's in the 10th house. Mars in the 10th house really loves it there. People with Mars in the 10th are very driven to pursue their passions. They're going to do it the Aries way, the Scorpio way, right? Cuz Mars rules both the energy of Aries and Scorpio. In Gemini, it can be a little bit more scattered because it does take a flavor of air through the energy of Gemini, but it makes people very quick with their mind, with their speech, and negotiators. So even though he might have struggled at first to find his voice and be vocal about his beliefs, his passion within, that burning fire in the 10th house with Mars there, didn't allow him to stay quiet. And it's also ruling his 8th house, which is where his sun is at, that exalted sun. Now, he has a wide conjunction from Uranus and his sun, but Uranus, whenever it touches your sun, because that's your career, you are the ultimate think outside the box person. You are an innovator. You are an activist. You are that humanitarian. You just think outside the box. And that is greatly displayed in his chart, how he was able to speak for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. And he's continuing to impact with the laws that he assisted in implementing and the fairness that he created. Now, it wasn't perfect. There was a lot of things that he still kept on negotiating and trying to improve, but it was well better off than when he had not started that work. He also has Venus in Taurus, which is in the ninth house of belief systems. And it's a very, very well placed because Venus rules the sign of Taurus. So this also shows the stubbornness and the fixed energy that he pursued his beliefs, which was also an injury for him because Chiron is there. Chiron is at 0 degrees in Taurus. And that is something that he was able to also continue to heal others through his personal experience. And he was able to advocate from experience. He experienced these unfairness, treatment, and laws around farm labor because he was working in the farm and he loved working with land with that Saturn in the fourth. You can see that, but he did not like the inequality that was displayed in that work. Now, going to the North Node, he had the North Node in the 11th house, which is naturally an Aquarian house shaped by that energy of Uranus. So you can definitely see there that again he was meant to advocate, he was meant to speak up in this area, but it's a Cancer energy. This is for the people, and what a perfect match in energy. He advocated in a nation that is Cancerian. The Declaration of Independence was signed 7-4. So that is a Cancer sun right there. It's also Sagittarius rising. That's for another video. But I did want to mention that how his North Node was able to tap into the archetype in general of where he was born. And this is why souls choose the chart they're born with. They really do. And he chose this path of becoming empowered and empowering the people, a group of people that he was very connected to, like the energy of Cancer, protective of, nurturing, right? So it was his people. He has Pluto there at 13 degrees, and that's where the Sirius fixed stars sits. So he was definitely channeling some star seeds through that Pluto placement. We can see how he became very powerful with his words, with his position, and, just an amazing advocate that he eventually ended up being honored by given the day March 31st. That was his birthday, as a holiday. So this is amazing. This is why I wanted to do this video, because I found this chart just stunning. It was just stunning. Another thing that I noticed is the South Node in the 5th house. So when you have the South Node in the 5th house, you come in with a lot of creativity, a lot of passion, a lot of desire, but it's in Capricorn. So it does bring blockages. Now, his Saturn is placed in Sagittarius, which is going to change the energy of Saturn. I mean, Sagittarius is not the worst placement for Saturn. So it's not the best either, but because he does have Jupiter well placed, it assists. So he might have had some issues, with the authority archetype, with authoritative people of power, but he was able to persuade because of that energy of Pisces ruling the 7th house and having a lot of support there. And one of the things, or one of the models that his campaigning did, his advocating did, is leave a trademark behind, which is si se puede. That means yes, you can. So yes, you can do it. Yes, we can do this. Yes, we can continue fighting. Yes, we continue working. So it was a fight, but this was a verbal fight. You can see that by that Mars in Gemini, right? And also Mercury ruling the MC and bringing down a dream, because Mercury is in a Pisces archetype, which is that dreamy energy. So he combined the spoken word, with dream. Yes, we can. Yes, this is possible. Yes, we can achieve the dream. And there was also that movement of the arm, like you fist up the arm and you shook it, like, yes, I can. Kinesthetically using the muscles of that Mars. So you can really see that. Now, he didn't come up with the slogan, si se puede. That was actually done by a colleague of his. Her name was Dolores Huerta. That's another chart that I'll be analyzing later. Let's see, what else can I mention about this chart? Like I said, everything really flows with what he did in his life, the legacy he left behind, how he advocated for his people. Now, let me mention this. So we have Neptune in the sign of Leo, and it's in the 12th house. So this is tapping into the collective unconscious. You have the part of fortune there too. Whatever planets we have in the 12th house, because that is a karmic house, it's a moksha house. Those are houses, all the water houses are houses that seek liberation. So the themes around the houses are going to be more deeper, more tied into the spiritual realm, or to emotions, deep emotions, things like that, versus the other houses that have different, some of them are material based and some of them are mind based. So all the moksha houses, the 12th house being the last moksha house, he has Neptune there. Now, Neptune is the modern ruler of the 12th house. So that's a very strong Neptune, but it's in Leo. So this is taking leadership. And in his chart, he was tapping in to the collective unconscious and took leadership. He also has a part of fortune there. And part of fortune is a calculation of his ascendant sun and moon, and that's why this part is very important. I'm going to make a video on that shortly so you can get more insight on that part of fortune. So don't forget to follow me, hit that notification bell, and so you can get notified when I post that video. Okay, so he was able to live more of a meaningful life if he was to do something that was not just for him. If he was to take leadership and be the voice for the collective and stand up for the collective. And that's what he did. So his soul sought liberation through being in this position of power and using his power to advocate for the masses. Now, it wasn't everyone, right? But it was a great deal of people that were in these conditions. Again, using that energy of Virgo, which is a sign of service. So he was of service, but still a lot of Piscean energy mixed in with that fire Aries, that exalted sun. In the 8th house, another moksha house, another liberation house. But, you know, he had all the fire houses in his chart activating his natural water houses. And Saturn being there too, that was very dominant inside of his persona. He came to do this type of work, to make things fair. And Saturn naturally rules the 10th house of career. So you can see that there, that he made it his career, his passion, and it was something very internal, very engraved in his psyche, so he can advocate. He doesn't necessarily have an exact opposition between Saturn and Mars, but they're still in opposite houses, so that also provided him with long-term back and forth, because he was activating that polarity to have energy and continue to fuel his voice. Lastly, I wanted to touch a little bit on his 3rd house, because we know he used his voice, and that was a big piece of his work and the legacy he left behind, right? He left slogans along with other people. He left powerful speeches, and, you know, he negotiated with that voice. So for him, the ruler of his 3rd house is both Mars and Pluto. And I already discussed how Mars is well positioned in his chart. It's in the 10th. And it's also in a decan that's ruled by Uranus and Saturn. Co-rules it. The modern ruler is Uranus, but the ancient ruler is Saturn. And it's an Aquarian archetype. And then we have Pluto in his decan. So Pluto in Cancer, in a Scorpio decan, right? That archetype. So he both tapped in with that breaking free from power, breaking free from structures that were disempowering people to provide liberation and freedom. So in a nutshell, he did what he was supposed to do. He did that work. Even though he doesn't have any major planets in the 3rd house of Scorpio, because the planets that rule, both of the planets that rule this house are very well positioned in his chart. He was able to use that gift. So remember, just because you have some planets, like he has Mercury in Pisces, in a sign that doesn't allow the planet to express itself, your chart is beautiful. And no matter what the layout is, you are going to be able to tap into your divine self-expression and live your human experience according to your individual blueprint. And the blueprint is your chart. You can make the best out of all the placements that you have. And the more you tap into who you really are, who you really wanted to be, because you elected this time, you elected the family that you signed in to live with. Now, I don't believe that everything is written in stone. I believe in a lot of free will. However, we have free will to either express the shadow or the light. We have free will to respond or not respond. But no matter what, our chart gives us that layout. So he was able to express himself by really tapping into all these areas of his chart, and then from there utilizing his entire archetype, because your chart is your archetype, the individual layout, how all the planets communicate, how they support, how they don't support themselves. They're all talking about the things that come as the most natural to you, the easiest to express. He does have Vesta there, and he has Pallas there. Now, Vesta is the asteroid of the hearth, and she was given the assignment. She's one of the siblings of Pluto, Jupiter, and Neptune, and Pallas is the daughter of Jupiter. But Vesta is a sibling, and she was a virgin. And what she did is she was worshipped for sacrifices, for rituals, especially for keeping the flame in the home. So as fire was given from the gods to humanity, every home had fire. And with that fire, you can cook. With that fire, you can keep warm. With that fire, you can survive winter, right? So that's why Vesta in our chart, wherever we have her, is very powerful, because it lights our spirit from the inside. And it gives us this sense of purpose, of belonging to something that's much greater for us. It's our divine, sacred expression, wherever we have that Vesta. And then you combine it with the archetype of Pallas Athena. Now, Pallas Athena is similar to Mars. So again, that Mars-Pluto energy kind of playing out again in the third house. It's in the sign of Scorpio, so it's already going to be ruled by Mars. But Pallas Athena was the sister of Mars, of Aries, and she was much like Aries. Her mythology goes back as being born fully armed in armor from Jupiter's head, giving Jupiter a pounding head ruled by Aries, and blood rush. We know that blood rushes to the head, and that also can cause, I mean, there's many reasons for headaches and migraines, but that's one of the reasons, the pressure of the blood, things like that. So still that association, if you look at the mythology much more deeper, you'll get much more information. So with that said, he was strategic. So he fought, and he fought good, but he fought with his words in a way that was deep, in a way that was connecting to real deep emotions in people, to the unconscious behavior of people, because those are all the moksha zodiac signs. Now, this is not a moksha house, but it is for him. All the water signs rule this triplicity is the Artha houses for him. So that is all I wanted to talk about. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on, but I don't want to make this video longer than it should. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're notified when I post new videos. Let me know in the comments if you like this video. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, this is like a quick interpretation, right? When we do natal readings, they're about an hour. So yeah, either way, thank you so much, and happy Cesar Chavez Day. A new holiday, but a very deserved holiday that impacts not just farmers and labor workers, but most importantly, laborers in general, because most of us were not born with a silver spoon, and the majority of the world has to work to take care of themselves. So this is that energy of Virgo: service, work, our habits. So thank you so much. Love you. Bye.